Good morning, and thank you for joining us for a live talk with STEM Ambassador Nick. He's a customer engineer working at Google Cloud, which many of you will know is a multinational technology company. Thanks for joining us today. It's good to see so many of you on this call. And to celebrate National Careers Week, Nick will explain about his journey into Google and inform you of what it's like to work there, along with some of the common skills and behaviours you should look to develop if a career in technology is for you. Please feel free to ask any questions by putting them into the chat, and Nick will aim to answer as many as he can at the end of his talk. So let's get started. Good morning, Nick.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks very much for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. Thanks very much for joining the call today. I appreciate probably many of you have maybe not thought about the kind of career or job you want to go into, and there might be others of you that actually are pretty clear on what you want to do. Now, from my experience, that was pretty normal. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I first started out. And I really stumbled into the career that I ended up in, which is working in the technology sector. So my aim today is to really give you some insight into what it's like working in the technology sector and share my own path and how I got there. And then there are three key things that I wanted to share with you. The first one is that if you've dismissed working in the technology sector or computing sector, maybe because you think you're not that strong in traditional subjects like maths and computer science that do lend themselves traditionally to working in the technology sector, I want you to think again, and hopefully when I go through this, you'll start to see there are so many other roles that you can do in the technology sector that don't rely on being really strong in computer science and maths. So just bear that in mind as we go through. And then I wanted to share just some common skills and behaviours that I think we can all learn and develop. And I think these are critical to be successful in any career, not just technology. And then finally, I just wanted to share with you just some key learnings that I've taken from my career so far that have really helped me. And again, hopefully these will help you if you take some of them on board to think about them. Just as context, I've got 3 children. So one is in year 7. One is in year 12, and my oldest son is now in full-time work. So even though my school days were a long time ago, for what it's worth, I have got a small bit of insight to what it's like being at school, thinking about taking your options or thinking about the next steps and where you want to go. So with that, let me move on and just sort of take you through my career. So this is me. I started my GCSEs in a standard all-boys comprehensive school in Rains Park, southwest London. And my favourite subjects were more the social sciences, so sociology, economics, history to a less sense. I was average at maths, average at science. They weren't really my main topics that I really excelled in, but I was okay and I got by. Computing in the school wasn't really that strong, and my first interaction working with computers was my own. You'll see on the bottom there a black keyboard. That was a Spectrum 48K. At the time, these were one of the first personal computers, and I think I told my parents I was going to learn lots of coding, programming, but the reality was I spent probably 99.99% of my time playing games. Now, you won't remember this, but to play a game was not simply a case of turning on your PlayStation and on the game came. You had to load the game with a tape deck, and it might take 10, 15, 20 minutes. It could take a lot longer depending on how loud or low you had the volume setting. A whole world of different pain that I hope none of you have to experience. But that's where I started, then moved on to a Super Nintendo. Started playing things like Mario Kart, Street Fighter, then onto the PlayStation. And that was really my interaction with computing, was playing games. I then went on to study economics at university. And when I came out, that's where the growth of the personal computer really started to come. And Windows 95 from Microsoft that's when that came out, and I did have a personal computer, and I started to use it to surf the web. Again, you won't remember this, but there was something called Netscape, which was one of the very first web browsers, sorry, one of the very first search engine and web browsers. And again, that's really my interaction with computing. Coming out of university studying economics, the natural place to look for a role or in a career was working in finance or banking. I'm not sure why, but that was just where you sort of were set that direction. Applied for lots of different roles, didn't get any of them, had lots of interviews. And eventually I thought after about 3, 4, 5 months, I probably need to go and get a full-time job, just doing something, just so I can earn a little bit of money and get some experience. So I got a job working in a law firm in their post room. And the job there was to sort the post out, walk around the floors, delivering all that post. It was quite long hours, it was working in central London, so it would be about a 14-hour day, getting in, doing the role, then coming home. And it was great for about 4, 5, 6 months. And then I thought to myself again, I probably need to think about what the next step is. And just by pure luck, they were rolling out a brand new IT system to all the lawyers, all the partners. And I saw this job, an entry-level role, which is called IT Support Help Desk. Applied for the role and got it. I didn't really know what I had applied for, but it was a case of sitting on the end of a phone and probably 9 times out of 10 picking the phone up to someone that wasn't very happy. And you had to try and help support and help their issue they had with this new IT system. I then got the opportunity after about 6 months to start to walk around the floors, and I was asked to go and fix printers and to do some basic network cabling. Very little training. I was given a couple of screwdrivers, and I would pretty much self-taught myself to go around and to fix a lot of the hardware issues that were happening. At that point, I started to think, this is quite interesting working in IT. It was just the tip of the iceberg of my knowledge of understanding the roles were there. And I then got a bit of a break moving to a company called Morse, where I became a consultant. And that was just before the year 2000. And at the time, IT companies were very valuable. Everyone was investing in technology, and Morse was a great opportunity for me. I learned so much. I traveled around the UK, traveled across Europe, just training and delivering solutions for customers. It was really a really good 3 years. I then moved into the back end of that to working in what we call pre-sales, and I'll talk about what that is in a little bit more detail next. But a pre-sales engineer into a software vendor called Veritas. I then moved into cybersecurity, into more of a management role, where I worked at Symantec, and then I again moved up into more of a leadership role, going back to Veritas as a different organisation. I then got to a point in my career where I just thought, what next? And this is the power of when you network with other people in your career. I had a friend who worked at Veritas, and he decided to move to Google Cloud. And at the time, Google Cloud was a much smaller organisation. It was a small part of Google. And he moved there and he said to me, it's a really good place. You get back to working with really cutting edge technology. It's really fast moving. You meet a load of customers, really exciting. So he put me forward for a role. I went through the interview process, which is quite stringent, managed to get the role, and I'm now back at Google Cloud as what we call a customer engineer. So that's a whistle-stop tour of my career path. Now, I wanted to just give you some insight. What is a customer engineer? It's also known as a pre-sales engineer. It's also known as a sales engineer. There's different roles or different names for the same thing. But fundamentally, I see the role as really being the glue to help coordinate different people, different teams, different skill sets together. It's really joining the dots. You wear multiple different hats. One is firmly a technology capability hat. Another one is more of a business level hat. And there's another one is sort of people relationship skills. And what do I do day in, day out? Well, it's first of all to help customers, or to understand from them what are their business challenges. So customers don't buy technology for technology's sake. They buy it to solve an actual business problem they've got. And it's important to try and to get under the covers of what is the business problem. If you just try and position technology and solutions, you're probably going to miss help solving the actual challenge itself. It's important to understand that. It's important to also understand what their current environment looks like. Where are they today? Have they got a really old environment like the law firm I worked in? And are they looking to modernize that? So you need to do your homework to understand what it currently looks like. You then need to start thinking about how you can architect a solution for them. And today it's working with Google Cloud for myself. So architecting solutions that pull the different pieces together to provide a technology solution that solves that business challenge. And a big part of my role is answering questions, whether that's in person or via meet calls like this, or actually via email. Customers have lots of different questions and lots of back and forth, lots of research, being able to find information. And a lot of the times I don't actually know the answer, but it's a case of going to find the answer, speaking to the right people, trying to understand what it means, simplify it, and then go back to the customer with a clear answer to them. Another big part of the role is coordination, working with a wide variety of different people in the customer, in partners, internally within Google. It's making sure those cogs are connected and going in the same direction to ultimately solve that outcome that the customer has asked you to solve, that business challenge. So that's a whistle-stop tour of what a customer engineer does. Now I want to just move on quickly just to dispel a myth, and I sort of signposted this a little bit earlier on, but I've heard this a few times when I speak to students, that they think technology isn't for me because I'm not very good at computer science or maths. Now, if you are, that's great, and they are great skills for you to be able to take forward if you wanted to be a software engineer. However, you can have a great career in technology without being good at computer science or maths. Myself, I'm not a coder by design. I have learned how to do basic coding over the years by doing the job, and a lot of technical skills I've built up by learning on the job and training myself up. But these are skills that you can learn. But if that's not for you, again, don't worry about it. I'm going to talk about shortly some other roles that I think other skill sets are needed, but you can still be successful working in a technology company. I just wanted to give you a quick story about myself. Many years ago, when I mentioned I was going for lots of interviews and I wasn't successful, there was one particular example where I went to what we call an interview centre, where you go in the morning and you go through to the afternoon and you get lots of different tests. You go in quite blind, quite cold, you can't prepare for them. They're just hitting you with lots of tests and they just see how you do. And there was one test that I think was probably a logical thinking test. And I think, again, my assumption is that it was probably testing my suitability as a software engineer, a coder or a programmer. First couple of questions were about half a page long and you had to read through it, logically think through how you'd approach it. Managed to get some answers to those two, thinking, not sure this is my strength here. I turned the next page, and it was about 3 pages long, the question. Trying to follow through this question logically, trying to remember everything, and then formulate an answer. It was at that point that I thought to myself, I'm not convinced this type of role is for me. And it did dent my confidence quite severely. And I thought, wow, you know, everyone else can probably do this apart from me. I'm sure that wasn't the case. But I think the message here is, to me, whilst I took away perhaps being a software engineer, computer programmer might not be for me, I didn't rule out at the time that working in the technology sector couldn't be a career I could follow. At the time, I didn't know that, and I hadn't got into technology yet. But I say the message is, try not to let where you might have things that dent your confidence completely dent them forever. Just keep an open mind. So this is just a snapshot of some of the many, many different roles that you can get working in a technology company. And there are many more, but I just wanted to highlight some of them and some of the skill sets that are really relevant beyond just needing to be good at computer science and maths. So creative skills in writing and art and design are really critical for roles such as marketing and designing. Organizational skills are relevant in all roles, but in particular the ability to think ahead, to plan, to pull teams together. These are really critical for things like event management and public relations. Influencing, negotiation and people skills, again, relevant in all roles, but particularly relevant and critical in roles like sales and pre-sales roles. And being able to write really clearly with impact, explaining difficult topics in an easy to understand language, a key for documentation writers, again, public relations, lawyers, project managers. So hopefully I'm just giving you just a sense here that other skills are required and they are critical to helping technology organizations. I think the key though is that you've got to have an interest in technology. And again, coming back to that idea that technology solves business problems, and that's why organizations buy technology to solve those problems. So if you're interested in how technology can solve business issues, then there's no reason technology couldn't be a great career for you. So here are some common skills that I think you need to be successful. And it's not just me that think this. So this word cloud was taken when I crowdsourced a survey across the whole of the UK customer engineering team in Google Cloud. I just asked them a simple question. I said it was for this STEM talk. Can you tell me, what do you think are the key skill sets that make a successful customer engineer working in a technology career? And this is what came up. Obviously, the larger words are the ones that came up most. I just wanted to highlight a couple of them. A growth mindset, being flexible, being open. Obviously, the opposite of that is a fixed mindset. I think just having an open mind and being receptive to new ways, new thinking, challenging yourself, being flexible are all part of a growth mindset. And I think that is really critical. The ability to collaborate is really important as well. We probably all know people that we don't quite get on as well as other people, but we might need to work with them. And to be successful, we do need to work as teams. There are times where working as an individual are absolutely the right thing to do, but to really be successful, we have to work as a team, and collaboration is really key. So just understanding that, embracing different people, embracing diversity, and embracing how you work with different people is really, really, really important. Coupled with that is communication. I think some people are really excellent communicators, and others perhaps it's not a natural thing for them, but we can all be good communicators, and we can all develop our communication style to be more effective in how we collaborate. And again, thinking about that, not just sitting back and thinking to yourself, oh, I'm not very good at communicating, or everyone else is much better at me. You can all improve your communication. It takes work, but you have to push yourself to do it. And the final one is curiosity. I think having that curious nature to get under the covers and think about, why does this work that way? How does it work that way? What could we do different? Asking questions and being curious is really important to stretch yourself and help stretch your organization as well. So these are, just some of the key skill sets, and crowdsourced from the CE community at Google Cloud in the UK. So finally, I wanted to take you through some career advice that I think, when I look back on my own career, what I think have been useful for me. So I think the first one is, don't expect necessarily a straight line to where you want to get to. Like my own example, I started looking for roles in banking and finance. I then started to work in a post room, and I then pivoted completely unexpectedly to work in the IT technology world. And then from there, I started my career. So I think the message here is, sometimes you take roles and you think to yourself, I'm not quite sure how this is going to be useful. Embrace the role. Take what you can, take what transferable skills you can learn. It probably will only be for a relatively short time, but don't don't look down on a role that you think doesn't get you where you want to get to straight away. Sometimes you have to take a 90-degree turn, learn some transferable skills. You might network with people that can help you on your journey, again, like my own example moving into Google. So just don't expect that straight path necessarily. You might have to take some different stepping stones, but they each build up to get you where you want to get to at the end. Second area is failure. And none of us want to fail, but I think unfortunately it is inevitable at times that things won't go according to plan, and it can really dent your confidence when something goes wrong and it stops you trying again. And I think you have to try and fight that. And this first attempt in learning, I think, is really, well, it's critical, I think, in taking it that way. You have to spin a failure and turn it around and think, why did it go wrong? What could I have done better? How can I improve this next time? These are the positives you have to take from it, because you will get to a situation where probably something didn't go as you hoped for, and you've got to pick yourself up, take the positives and move forward to then try and avoid making that same mistake again. The third one is about being yourself. And you may or may not have heard the term imposter syndrome. And this is where you feel like you don't belong. And at any moment, you're going to be found out and you're going to be asked to leave. So you join a new company and you look around you and you think, wow, look at all these people. They know everything and I know absolutely nothing at all. I'm never going to make it here. I can't believe I was offered this job. Any minute, my manager's going to come up to me and say to me, we made a bad mistake and actually we need to ask you to leave. Everyone feels like that at times. I would suggest I certainly felt that in a number of different roles. I certainly found it at Google when I first joined. It was very much like drinking from the fire hose. It took me about a year to start to get settled and thought, actually, I think I know what I'm doing now in the role. So I think the key here is you have to try and be yourself, though. If you start to feel like an imposter and you start to pivot to try and be somebody else that you're not, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of energy, and you're probably not going to be happy doing that. I take the classic example, if you're introverted, and I said my natural preference is more introversion. If I try and be really extroverted, one, I feel really uncomfortable doing it, and secondly, it takes an enormous amount of energy out of me. I know in my roles over the years, I have to flex my style to be able to be more extroverted for short periods of time, but I've learned over the years to be comfortable being more introverted, and it helps me be more effective by being myself. And the final one is just always be learning. And I always said to people when I mentor or coach them and say, look, if you're not learning, you're probably going backwards. Whatever that learning is it people skills, technical skills, hard skills, soft, whatever it is, you have to be thinking all the time, are you learning? And there's this old adage in work that you can either be learning or earning. In the ideal world, we're both earning, as in earning money, and we're also learning. But often when you're first starting out your career, you might be learning, and the earning part of it might come later. But that learning is valuable, and I think the key there is to take the learning, see how it's going to be one of your stepping stones to move on to something else, take the value, take the transferable skills, and then you take that somewhere else, and then you can start doing the learning and the earning at the same time. So I just think that's really important. In my day-to-day now, I'm constantly learning, and it's hard work, but it makes the job more rewarding. If you're not learning, say you're going backwards, and then the day-to-day job becomes quite mundane. So I think I'm about 20 minutes I plan to go for today. So for that, I can probably hand back to Lisa and Sophie if there are any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. That was really an honest talk from you there, and I'm sure everyone appreciates that. We've got some fantastic questions coming into the chat, so I'm going to hand you over to Sophie and she'll put those to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, Nick, and everybody watching in schools and at home. So our first question is, what do you enjoy most about your job?
I think it's probably two things. One, I really do enjoy meeting with customers. I like to understand their challenges, where they are, their business, and then how we can help. And then the second area is my very last point, is the learning. I do really enjoy learning new things. It's such a fast-moving industry in technology. It never stands still, particularly at the moment with generative AI. If anyone's heard around that, that is a really, really fast-moving industry. And yeah, I think it just keeps you really fresh, and it's exciting, because if you're just doing the same thing day in, day out, it starts to get a little bit repetitive.
Yeah, absolutely. So our next question is, what would you love to do in the future?
At the moment, I'm really quite happy doing what I do. I've been working in sort of pre-sales for quite a while in different roles. I don't have any desires to change quite yet. I really do enjoy what I do, and I think I've found my role that I really enjoy. So at the moment, there is no career aspiration to change at the moment.
That's really good then. Brilliant. Okay, I've got a question. Can I get work experience at Google Cloud?
Unfortunately, it's really hard. I've tried it for my own son, who's trying to get it for his A-levels, but they don't offer work experience. They do, however, offer a graduate trainee program. So probably in a few years' time, there is a really, really strong graduate program. And if that was of interest, I would highly recommend you go for that, because I've seen a number of the graduates that come through. They've all done really, really well. So that's what I would encourage you to look at.
Okay. Is there anybody in the tech industry who you're inspired by?
There's lots of different people that I think you could call out at the moment all around the generative AI space. There's lots of different individuals and companies that have spun up. A lot of them have come out of Google. I guess slightly funnily, that a lot of them started there and then have moved out and created their own generative AI solutions. So I think the pace of change, all those companies, how they're working so quickly and bringing new products and solutions and large language models to the world, is a phenomenal pace. And I think it's quite inspiring to see how quickly that is moving at the moment.
Okay, can you just explain what is it generative AI that you was talking about briefly?
Yeah.
What that is?
So generative AI is it's a way of generating new content. So models are trained. So artificial intelligence is a way of training a model from large amounts of data, large amounts of information. And traditionally, what you can then do is train a model. You can then ask it a question, and it will come back with some kind of prediction based on the data that you've given it. Generative AI is trained on, think of it, the internet. So just humongous amounts of information. And then it feels like it's human-like in the way that it can respond to you, but all it's actually doing is just working out what are the most likely next responses back to you. So based on this humongous amount of training data, it can use natural language to work out what the most likely responses are going to be to you. So you can ask it a question and it will come back based on this huge training set to say a response that is relevant to you. And you can keep training those models, with your own private data that your organization owns, and you can really make it much more fine-tuned for your use cases. So in a nutshell, it's a way of creating new content, whether that's through text, natural language response, images, or creating videos. And the last year and a half, it's absolutely exploded this world.
Okay, that sounds a very exciting area for our students. Some of our students may well get involved with that once they've completed their studies. Brilliant. Okay, so our next question, what uni courses are good to get a job in the tech sector? What courses would you recommend?
I think you could, I mean, there's obvious courses. If you wanted to get into the computer world and you wanted to be a software programmer, then any kind of degree in computer science is going to be good. But you've got to want to do computer science. So if you don't want to do computer science for whatever reason, doing a degree in maths, economics worked for me, and there's quite a few people that have done that as well. The sciences. But equally, if you're more of a social science or more of a creative person, these are all relevant as well. So it really depends on what kind of role you wanted to go for. I think degrees are wide enough now that having a degree is the entry through the door. And somewhere like Google, you don't have to have a degree, but it generally is more required. Or if you don't have a degree, you've got sort of 10 years experience working in the IT world. So I would say any degree is going to be relevant. Some will be more relevant than others, but I wouldn't say it's a computer science degree or a maths degree. Go and do something that you enjoy doing, do it well, and then there's no reason you couldn't pivot into the world of technology.
Okay, great. I've got a question just asking what the difference between Google and Google Cloud is.
Alphabet said that one in. So Alphabet is the parent company of Google right at the top. So Alphabet is here, and then Google is one of the companies, and then there are other companies under Alphabet. Under Google, we have Google Cloud. So Google Cloud is the cloud operating arm of Google. So we have lots of data centers and lots of services that customers then purchase by running their businesses on Google Cloud. The bigger Google business is things like Google Search, the Google Ads business. There's a whole raft of other businesses. So Google Cloud is part of Google.
Okay, I think we've got some more questions to come. Oh yes. I think you've already answered this, but Chat and Grammar were asking if there's any apprenticeship programs offered by Google.
There's only the one that I mentioned earlier. So as a postgraduate, there is a really good graduate program you can get on. It's called the Cloud Technical Residence Program, and that's really worth looking at. But there isn't. I've not seen any apprenticeship or work experience. No, I'm afraid.
Okay. I've got a question here from King's Academy Binfield. If you can just give a very sort of broad range, they want to know how much you can earn at Google, because I presume it depends on what you're doing.
The best place to go is a website called levels.fyi, and then on there that will give you quite a good insight to what you might be able to earn.
Sorry, what's that called?
Levels.fyi.
Levels.fyi.
If you go there, that will give you some insight to the kind of salaries and packages.
Okay, I've just put that in the chat if anyone wants to just Google that. Okay, I think we've got time for literally one last question, and that's to ask if you still play computer games.
I don't actually. No. My sons have got various consoles, but no, I sadly find I don't have the time anymore to play them. But I would love to find the time if I could.
Okay, thanks ever so much, and Nick, for answering those questions, and thank you to everybody watching in the schools and putting the questions in the chat. I'm just going to pass over to Lisa, who's just going to finish our talk today.
Thank you very much, Sophie, and thanks again, Nick. We're sure our audience has been inspired to learn more about careers within the technology industry. So maybe one day they'll be joining you at Google. I just wanted to let you all know that obviously it is Careers Week, National Careers Week, and we have live talks just like Nick's taking place for the remainder of the week. So take a look at our website. I've popped it into the chat as well. So hopefully you can join us for more careers advice. It's invaluable hearing it from people that are actually in the industry, and I hope you appreciate that. We've also got quite a lot of pre-recorded content, all created by our wonderful STEM ambassadors from various industries that you can watch on demand. So thanks again for joining us. Enjoy the rest of National Careers Week, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.